Hello and welcome back to RamsTalkPodcast, and we're here today after Derby's quite phenomenal 3-0 win. It's quite funny, Adam's trying desperately to balance his microphone right now. I don't know why I didn't do it the 15 minutes we've been sat here, but here we are. But Derby, 3-0 winners against Bristol City. Now, who saw that coming? We saw some predictions pre-match. We saw 2-0 defeat, 3-0 defeat, 4-0 defeat, 5-0 defeat. They hadn't lost since March, and yet Derby came in and absolutely battered them. So joining me today to talk about probably Derby's best performance under Paul Warne, we've got Callum Boocock. How are you, pal?
All good, all better after a win at Pride Park. Another one to add to the list. So I'm glad to be sat with you boys dissecting this one.
Perfect. We've also got Jamie Page. How are you, mate?
Yeah, absolutely buzzing. Still on a high. Can't believe the result. Can't believe I'm wearing this shirt and now like this shirt as well. So some strange things have happened over the last 24 hours.
They certainly have. And the strangest thing is you're almost talking into your mic, which I'm really not used to.
I'm
Usually
very
sort of
close.
I'm
very
in the
close.
vicinity of the mic. So
It's
thanks
professional,
for that.
ladies and gentlemen.
And we've also got goal hanger Adam Titley. How are you, pal?
I'm good, mate. Promotion might be round the corner now after that.
Oh, God.
Book the Wembley Hotel playoff final. Here we come after that. That's all I can say.
Well, I tell you what, if we play like that, I don't see why not, because that was some performance yesterday. And there's only one place we can start, Callum. And when we go back to the early moments of that game, atmosphere was unbelievable from the start. I thought the Bristol City fans before the game and for the first 5 minutes were great. After that, I didn't hear them at all. But after those first sort of 5 minutes set the tone for the game. And we have to talk about the beautiful man we have in goal, Jakob Vidal Zetterstrom. He's beautiful. Honestly, he's the most attractive man I think I've ever seen. So that gives him something. But he made two brilliant one-on-one saves early on to deny Bristol City when they ran through a couple of times. The first one a great block, and then he managed to flick the ball out for a corner, and another one in a similar way. I mean, Callum, there was a lot of talk about him and his transfer fee, especially the fact he cost about 1.5 million. And people were like, we could have used that on a striker. I think he proved yesterday exactly why we paid that money.
Yeah, when we talked about it when he signed, you need to have a goalkeeper at the end of the day who's solid and who's going to be here for 2-3 years and who's in his what we always like to call prime age. And he was absolutely phenomenal yesterday, bar probably one cross that he did have a little flap at, but he did get enough on it to have, and then got up straight away and stuff like that. But he just screams everything that we want in a goalkeeper that we've wanted for a while. His shot stopping and his speed coming off his line he's like straight away in front of the strikers. And I think when someone's going 1-on-1 and like they did yesterday, those two chances in the early 15-20 minutes, you want your goalkeeper straight away out there, because Nelson and Cashin yesterday did get left for dead a couple of times, and you thought if they get a goal here, the game can go another way. And our goalkeepers kept us in it, and that's what 1.4 million can get you, and that's a game winner. So yeah, long may it continue in Vic's absence is good form.
Yeah, exactly. And Jamie, I mean, this is no slight on Josh Vickers, but if you cast your mind back to Blackburn away and that fourth goal where they ran through on goal and it just easily sort of chipped the ball past Vickers. Now, Zetterstrom, the speed at which he gets down is really, really impressive. He's a big guy, a really, really big guy, but the way he spreads himself and the way he gets himself in the way of the ball is really special, isn't it? It looks like we've got a good one here.
Yeah, I think he's an all-round good goalkeeper. I think he kicks well. He's got good handling. Like you said there, he gets down so well. I mean, there's certain situations that in that game that maybe he didn't deserve to get to. And if someone dinks him and they score, you don't really criticise the goalkeeper anyway. So, yeah, I think he's superb. He definitely deserves that spot. I laughed after the game because he forgot his scrum hat in the middle of the pitch, so he had to run back and get that. But he's passion as well, and I've just seen Adam Lilly in the YouTube comment saying that he's the next Mark Poom, and that's what my dad said last night. He just gives those Mark Poom vibes. Hopefully he's not going to score for us when he will score against us when he signs for Sunderland next season. But Yeah, he's just so good, and yeah, definitely deserves that place between the sticks. And we said it, didn't we, Jake? We said he needs to start, and he did. Look, if Paul Ward's listening, keep him in between the sticks.
I'm sure he will. I don't think that's in any doubt. I'll be honest. I mean, Adam, we look at Zetterstrom, he's come into the team. He had that game against Watford where he didn't really have a proper save to make. Watford's goals were both, one was from a rebound, one was a ridiculous overhead kick that you really couldn't do anything about. You look at that Barrow game, he sort of grew into it really well. He made a really strong save towards the end of that game. Obviously saved a penalty there as well, but he comes into the team for his home debut at Pride Park. He's got near on 30,000 chanting his name, backing him to the hills. And some of the saves he made, I mean, let's not just talk about the ones towards the start of the game, because there were a few in the second half. There were a couple of shots on the turn where he got across so quickly and so well. And it just fills you with confidence, doesn't it? We needed that. We need a solid goalkeeper. We need a solid base. And I think there were times in the first couple of games of the season where it didn't feel like the defence had the same confidence that they had last season. But with Zetterstrom in, all of a sudden, the whole team has that belief again.
Yeah, I think he breathes confidence into that back four as well. I think he seems to want the ball when it's either with our fullbacks or centre backs, and we're under heavy pressure. He seems to want that ball, which I think is definitely a big difference, I would say, from maybe Joe Wildsmith. I think last season, if we look back to that, I think his kicking could have required improvement, Wildsmith. But for me, Zetterstrom yesterday, whenever the ball went back to him, and it was fired forward, it would always stay in play, which I think is key, and something that I think maybe we've not seen from the last couple of goalkeepers we've had at the club. And I think it just inspires that back line that when they are under pressure, there is the option to go back to the keeper, and it's not going to be shaky or nervy. I think he's very comfortable on the ball. I think at Watford away, he might have been too comfortable on the ball for one moment, but I'd rather he be comfortable on the ball than panicky and it been going out for throw-ins and just like skewing passes. So yeah, I think it's a big positive that we've got a goalkeeper of that quality who is so comfortable, and we're in a division where there is a couple of keepers like that. And if you can keep performing like that, I'm sure we can score a few more of them counter-attacking goals from some of them punts down the field when we're under pressure.
Well, that's it. And I think it's more than a punt. I thought his distribution was fantastic. The way he just sort of knuckles the ball with very little effort whatsoever. There were a couple where he'd get the ball in our box and it'd land in their box. So I can see that being a weapon. I mean, you can see why he got a few assists, can't you, for Gardens? Because if you've got players with pace, which we do have, running in behind on the counter attack, you're going to score goals. So yeah, I can see that being a huge weapon for us, and it's so good to have him in the team. I mean, he loves it, doesn't he? You mentioned that. We'll obviously get onto the goals, but that third goal, seeing him run all the way down the pitch to go and celebrate with David Ozoh was, lovely. He seems to love it here already, which is exactly what you want. But let's get on to the first goal, Callum, because it starts with a player who I thought completely ran the game yesterday, and that's Kenzo Goudmijn. And I thought he's quite unlucky beforehand. We played some lovely football. Mendes Lang setting up Goudmijn. He just sort of leant back at the vital moment and couldn't direct his shot into the corner. But from the corner, I mean, me and my brother picked it out. He was completely unmarked on the edge of the box, which clearly is a mistake, and it falls to him, and he caresses a lovely shot into the bottom corner in off the post. And we've had a few players, haven't we, Callum, in recent years that have, I mean, I think Kamil Yusriak's probably the biggest one that I can mention, where we've invested in a player from a foreign league and they've come in and they've not been a big figure, not been big physical figures, and they've struggled a little bit to adapt to it. But Kenzo seems to have adapted, and that goal will do him the world of good.
Yeah, it's a calculated risk when you sign someone from abroad, but it's someone that they've obviously gone and really, really looked at. They've gone and watched him live. They've liked what they've seen. They brought him over, and it's just a case of him adapting to us, but also the league. And it's taken him a couple of games to find his feet. But I mean, me and Vic were watching the game yesterday together, and we both said he just needs a chance straight away, or as soon as possible, straight after he missed that one opportunity. And what it was, 3 or 4 minutes, not even that. And like he said, he's outside the box, but it's the fact that he's got the confidence in himself after missing an opportunity like that. And you saw how frustrated he was at the edge of the box when it went for a corner, that he's willing to take a shot. Because I think the biggest thing and biggest criticism that we've had of a Paul Warne team is that we don't take shots when we've got the opportunity. And the fact that we're on the edge of the box, he's then put it in the one place that the goalkeeper isn't going to be able to get to it, and it's just took a nick off the post and it's gone straight in. And you saw the relief off his face and the sheer elation. And what was nice is that I think his dad was there, wasn't he, watching the game? And you think what you want to do, and your first championship goal is to do it in front of someone who's probably supported him throughout his entire career. So no, it was a great goal, and first of many, I'm hoping.
Yeah, I love the fact that his dad was there. I think that's really cool. I noticed the whole Zetterstrom family were there as well, which was really nice. Some game to come to, isn't it? If that's your first game flying over, you must think it'd be like that every week. I wish it was. But I mean, Jamie, the thing that impressed me most with Kenzo Goudmijn yesterday was the way he just ran the game. He'd pick the ball up in pockets. And I know we talked about a lot this season. We don't get the ball to the midfield enough. We really don't. And we showed yesterday why we need to and why we should, because every time he picked up that ball, something happened. A chance was made, or we recycled possession. There was a moment where I can't remember what led up to it. I think it was, I don't know which one it was, but it was when Goudmijn came flying back. He'd sort of been involved in the attack, and he came flying back and put in a great challenge right in front of the home dugout, and the whole stadium rose to their feet because he's just bust a gut to get forward and he's bust a gut to get back, and he just looks like a quality player, doesn't he? And it's really good. I mean, you called it. You called that he was going to have some game. It's good to have a player like that playing with confidence.
Yeah, definitely. And my worry was that Max Bird was going to do what Kenzo did yesterday. I was really worried that Max Bird was going to grab that game and really take it to us. And yeah, I just had a feeling going into the game that we were going to see Kenzo at his best, and we did. But like you say, he always wants the ball. Whenever you look at him, he's always wanting the ball. His head's up. He's got really good feet. He's got an eye for a pass. And as we saw yesterday, he's got an eye for a shot as well. Yeah, I can't speak highly enough of him. I mean, we're going to go and talk through many players tonight, but I think he's probably right up there. And yeah, if he can continue to keep playing this way, continue to keep wanting the ball, if that relationship with those three continues to keep going, they all obviously get on really well. And I think that's one thing that I want to say about Paul Warne is sometimes tactically people will say he's not up to it or he gets stuff wrong. But he brings in a group of players and he makes sure that they are tight. Mm-hmm. And you've got players coming in from Sweden, you've got players coming in from Holland, people that, you know, this is their first time playing championship football. And you can tell how tight they are. And yeah, it does help that we've won the game 3-0. But still, you can see just how good the morale is in this squad. And Paul Warne needs full credit for that, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely agree. I mean, again, going back to Zetterstrom running the length of the pitch, there was a comment on Instagram. I think he commented on one of Ozoh's posts, and Ozoh made a comment about him running the length of the pitch, and he said he was still tired from it about 5 hours later, which made me laugh. But Adam, I think the most impressive thing for me about Goudmijn isn't just the fact that he keeps the ball really well in tight areas, but some of his passing was excellent. You think back to that Mendes Lang chance where he was so unlucky, sort of rounded the keeper, hit the outside of the post. But that pass from Goudmijn on the turn where it sort of bounced up and he catches it on the half volley straight over the top. That's the sort of pass we need, isn't it? We've got so many attacking players with so much pace. Can he be the man to unlock that forward line?
Well, hopefully so. And I think we've talked about Paul Warne's style of play being using the width quite a lot. And we've got some very good wide attacking players. And I think maybe what we saw against Bristol City was that's how we bring the midfield into play, and that's how the midfield become the key area of the team, because them forward passes weren't coming from the fullbacks trying to play it down the wing, or midfielders just as soon as they pick up the ball in deep areas trying to play it out wide. It was the midfielders won the ball back and either drove it forward or put in a nice passing combination. It was when then we were on the front foot, and Goudmijn was pretty much the catalyst in the middle of that park, I felt like yesterday. Whenever he got the ball and he drove forward with it, whether he did a couple of step overs or ball rolls, which I wasn't expecting from him, to be honest, to have that sort of in his locker, his game. But he looked to play it out wide, and when he did play it out wide, we created chances, and we scored 3 goals yesterday, and 2 of them were pretty much from that sort of play where the midfield would drive it forward and it would result in a good ball out wide, which we seemed to have a lot of space when we went out wide. And I think it definitely helped us. And like I said, he he was that catalyst in the middle, and if he can continue to perform like that, I think he's going to be a superb player. And it's such a difference from the opening game, Blackburn away, where I thought in the opening half an hour he's knocked off the ball a couple of times, and it was sort of the case of maybe he wasn't at the pace of the match or the Championship football, but now he seems to be at a level above that pace of the football, and it's good that he's been able to adapt so quickly and turn into what was yesterday one of the best players on that pitch.
Exactly, and we've had a couple of comments about Bird and Knight, and I think it says a lot that, Goudmijn stood out against players like that. Max Bird's been in inspired form this season, and he could barely get a kick, and Jason Knight was pretty much man marking Goudmijn. He got the better of him once or twice, but I think Goudmijn won the battle in the end. But let's look at that second goal. Obviously taken really well by Caden Jackson, which led to a really funny moment where it looked like Scott Twine was also celebrating, but no, he was still crying like he was all game. But when you look at what made that goal, it was the movement of Jerry Yates that made that goal. We get a throw in from Callum Elder, who, again, we've had a couple of comments saying how excellent he was, and he was excellent. He had a brilliant game, Callum Elder. But he takes the throw in. Yates's movement's great, lays it off to Jackson, who scores. And Callum, Jerry Yates really, really impressed me yesterday. We saw a couple of signs against Watford, but I think we were a little bit too deep for him to do too much. But the amount of times he'd pick up the ball completely isolated and he'd win something. There was one on the far side towards the Gordon Guthrie corner where he won a corner out of nothing. There were no Derby players within 50 yards of him, and he managed to sort of knock the ball off the defender and out for a corner. Now, we've said all along we need a striker. We've talked all summer about needing a striker. I think Jerry Yates yesterday proved that he could be the man to do that.
Yeah, me and Vic were talking about never falling in love with a lone player, and I'm probably going to fall in love with two this season, which is going to really depress me when they move back to their parent club. But
I haven't seen the other three yet, mate.
I know, yeah. I mean, Yates yesterday his link-up play was absolutely outstanding for someone who was tipped to be only good in a 2 or has to have a partner up there and needs a number 9 with him and stuff like that. I think he loves a little Cruyff turn and a little flick, doesn't he? Because I mean, the link-up play he had with Jackson, but also Mendes-Lang points, winning corners out of absolutely nothing, his tenacity and everything, and just going back to that goal, it's a Paul Warne obviously trained set piece throw in that because Jackson pointed at Warne when he scored, and everyone was kind of elated that something's come off from the training ground. And but by listening to Paul Warne, they've obviously tried it 2 or 3 times this season. It's not quite happened, and it's come off. And it's that little cute touch, and then a really clinical finish from Jackson that's really shown that the things that Paul Warne's doing on the training ground are coming off. And like we say, Jamie said earlier, he might not be tipped for in terms of tactics and stuff like that by some of the fan base, but he's doing something with this team, and they're obviously buying into what he's doing in some points because set pieces like that and routines like that are coming off and are producing goals.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And Jamie, I thought, obviously he set up Jackson's goal, which was great football, but he was so unlucky not to score himself. I mean, Mendes-Lang's free kick that got flicked over the top, it got put back into the middle. His touch was unbelievable. I've no idea how he took that ball down. It was so unlucky that the keeper managed to scramble it away. And then his one with his left foot where he hit the inside of the post and went away. I mean, we want a striker that's dangerous, don't we? And he looks really dangerous. Do you think he can carry that on?
Yeah, I do. I don't think that first goal's in the league too far away. Hopefully it comes against Cardiff next time out. That's the hope anyway. But yeah, I was massively impressed. And look, as a lone striker, in certain games, you're going to be frustrated and you're going to have to feed off scraps, but you're going to have to keep going. And I think it's very easy for a player up front to cut an isolated figure, be unhappy, maybe kind of foul or just be a little bit of a misery in that situation. But he gets his head down, he works hard, and he gets his rewards. And yeah, should have scored yesterday, but let's look at the stuff he did do. You know, like you said there, he won corners, he harassed the defenders, he didn't give them a moment's rest. The flick for Jackson's goal is amazing. It just shows that there's already a bit of a link up there after a couple of games of playing together. So the early signs look really good, but yeah, he deserves that goal. I absolutely loved as well. There was a picture, I think it was it Ozoh's celebration? You just see Yates in the background giving it to the West Stand, and that is what you want. We don't expect to win every week as Derby fans. If we can, perfect. But we want to see that when we do, we want to see that passion. I think passion was all over that park yesterday.
It was, and that came from off the pitch as well. You could see the reaction from the fans after that second goal. Is the loudest. I mean, obviously, let's take Carlisle out of it because that's an outlier. But that after that second goal is the loudest I can remember Pride Park properly in quite some time. The atmosphere was amazing. And Adam, I mean, that's going to play a huge part, isn't it? Because when you look at the team this season, yes, we had to weather a little bit of an early storm from Bristol City, but we kept backing the team. And when you do back the team, things happen. I mean, you have to spend a lot of your time recording the fans. Isn't it great when the fans actually give you something?
Yeah, I think the atmosphere yesterday definitely helped spur the team on. I think after that Howard Mine goal, I think it definitely lifted. And I think talking about Max Bird and Jason Knight, I think that atmosphere sort of caught them out, especially with the physicality of our play. I think it was sort of a case of where they couldn't get into the game and the occasion got to them. But the atmosphere is going to be key. I think we saw it at times last season. For me, Bolton Wanderers at home, thought the atmosphere was electric. And when that goal went in, the roof basically came off Pride Park. And I thought the atmosphere would carry us over the line. And it has done. In previous years, when we've been in this division, the atmosphere has been something that can really spur the team on, even when 1 or 2 goals down. And we've seen that under Paul Warne, this team can battle, and when they do that, I think the atmosphere grows with it. And yesterday, that style of football, it was exciting. It was something that I think I've not seen in a long time from Derby County, especially not under Paul Warne. And I have to give credit where credit's due. It's an exciting game, and that comes hand in hand with the atmosphere growing. And if we continue to play like that, even if we do experience a couple of losses still playing that style of play, I think the atmosphere will be superb. I think we saw the atmosphere the best at Pride Park when, not sound like a broken record, but the Steve McLaren years, the Lampard years, especially when that football was fast and free flowing. And that's what we got yesterday. We got some really good physical battles. And even when we made a tackle, the atmosphere lifted. I found myself enjoying the tackle, sort of winning them on like goals. I've never really done that before, but when we tackled one, I enjoyed that. And I just enjoyed seeing us win every second ball. And like I said, everything that we do on the pitch seems to be coming hand in hand with the atmosphere as well, and vice versa. And I think it's going to be almost the stereotypical 12th man, as people say, in this season coming.
Let's certainly hope so. And I can't believe we've gotten, almost 25 minutes in and we haven't talked about David Ozoh yet. I mean, his stats speak for themselves. Put him on yesterday, won the most duels in the game, completed 100% of his passes, completed 100% of his dribbles. And he scored a really good goal that even got a helping hand from Mr. Jason Knight as well. So thank you very much for that. Jason still loves Derby, loves putting the ball in that South Stand net. He'll never move on. He'll do it again next game as well, hopefully. But Ozoh, I thought in the first half, I thought he looked positionally a little bit suspect, as you'd expect from a 19-year-old playing holding midfield in the Championship. I thought there were a couple of times where the likes of Bird and Twine got in and around him and found those spaces. But after 30 minutes or so, he was the man. He was the man. Him and Cashin had a great understanding for the rest of the game. And if you look at that run for the goal, I mean, he picks up the ball just outside his own box, beats 2 men, plays it into Ibu Adams, who I've no idea what he was trying to do. I'm sure he'll claim it was a shot, but it was definitely a cross. And it gets parried out to Ozoh, smashes it in, and the whole of Pride Park goes crazy. I'm sure the people in front of me who went home after 18 minutes will be happy about missing that one. But Callum, he's some player, isn't he?
Yeah, lived up to what we were told by those from the Palace Way, who really bigged him up and really said that if he has confidence, you're going to have some player this season on loan. And I think that what was nice to see, as you mentioned, the first 15 minutes, he just seemed a little bit positionally incorrect. And what Paul Warne said was that about after half an hour, they pulled him over and said, "You're too deep. You need to get higher up and get with Kenzo and with Adams," because what Bird and Twine were doing was getting in and around him, as you mentioned. And he just pushed that a little bit higher. And in that second half, he absolutely ran the show. for me. He is a Rolls Royce of a midfielder when he gets on the ball. There was two moments. One was the goal, but there was also one right in front of the dugouts where he's just bodying and ball rolling 3 or 4 players, and then wins a free kick, and he's just kind of sat there on the floor, and everyone's looking at him and just going, "How have you done that?" Because he loves a body feint. He loves putting a midfielder on his arse, and what you like to see is from a 19-year-old is someone who is confident, because I think that when someone who is on loan and coming into an unknown environment, what you want is someone who is playing at the top of their game, and Ozoh is slowly getting there, in my opinion. And I think this season could be absolutely massive for him. Let's hope there's not a recall clause in that contract, because otherwise I'm going to be absolutely devastated.
The only thing as confident as David Ozoh is your language there, Carl. That was a dangerous line for the PG podcast there. Jamie, I mean, David Ozoh, he's had comparisons in the last couple of days to Yaya Toure, Paul Pogba, and I mean, obviously that's completely delusional, but the way that he carries the ball is similar to the way that Paul Pogba carried the ball in his early career. You know, you can't get the ball off him. He's 6'5". You're not going to get around him. He's always going to shield you. And he's really strong. He's pretty quick, and he's good on the ball as well. I mean, he's looking like the complete midfielder, isn't he?
Yeah, I think he could do it all. And when we say maybe positionally he's a bit off, I think it's probably because he knows that he can break, he can go left, he can go right, he can go back, he can go forward. So, yeah, I mean, yesterday I think we just saw exactly, like Callum said, why Palace are so keen on him. And I tweeted out about him and just said, you know, can't find the words to describe that performance. And there was a lot of Palace fans that were going, bring him back. We want to see him back already. So they're obviously keeping an eye on him. But yeah, you know what? Pogba, yeah, Vieira, maybe. I think the way that he carries himself and the way that he trusts himself on the ball and the way that he can just glide by players and that strength. I mean, for 19 years old, he's going up against, you know, you'd consider grown men. He's still a teenager and he's able to body them, like Callum said, down that line. And that just summed him up. He'll never give up. He'll go for 90 minutes. And he deserved that. He deserved that goal. And I tell you what, when he slid on his knees and he went about 15 foot on his knees, I just I completely lost it. I'm not going to lie. I didn't expect to get anything from that game, and that was just the cherry on top of the cake.
Yeah, that's it. He's some player, isn't he? Adam, I'm running out of questions to ask about David Ozoh because he's just good, isn't he? It's so strange. We're not used to having good players. He's actually just really good at football. One of the things that, I mean, both of the guys have mentioned so far is it's not just that carrying the ball. It's not just, you know, getting in the positions, but he's actually really good defensively as well. And he wins a lot of duels and he wins a lot of chances where, you know, you'd say he probably shouldn't win it. I mean, Jamie mentioned there he's 19. I'm 7 years older than him, and I think he'd put me in the next, you know, postcode if we went shoulder to shoulder. I mean, there's so much to come from him. He's only played a handful of games at senior level. Can he get any better?
I think he can. I think, you know, I always use Blackburn away that opening day as sort of the marker of where we were at when we first came into this division. And I think at Blackburn away, I think he struggled. I think that's a fair assessment there. I think it was the opening day, the occasion, the pace of the game, what we were up against in terms of what was a very good Blackburn performance. And he struggled in that game. His touch was off whenever he got the ball. I think he sort of shied away from trying anything too extravagant. But I think now what we're seeing is David Ozoh is much more of a rounded player. I know it's only a couple of games later, but he's really settled into Championship football really well. Let's not forget he wasn't a starting player for Palace for the whole season. Last season he came in, fitted in and had some really good performances. But as a young player, you've got to take your opportunities. And now he's got this opportunity at Derby to really settle down for a season and get some good football under his belt. And he was proving that yesterday. I think what I was really impressed with was, like you say, his defensive capabilities and also his feet. I thought his feet were superb, especially to get out of tight situations when he beat 3 or 4 players. And you could see it was frustrating Bristol City how he was able to keep the ball so well. But I think his touch has improved massively. I think he's settled now in the middle of that pitch, because I think even against Middlesbrough, whenever the ball came into his feet, it depended on how good his first touch was, and sometimes it would fly off him almost like a Martin Waghorn touch, as I describe it, because he had a pretty poor first.
Oh, come on, Adam.
No, I'm just listening. He's improved. I'm saying he's improved. I'm not calling him. I'm not saying he's got a bad touch now. I'm not saying he's got a bad touch now, but them opening 2 games, I think his first touch was a little bit questionable, and that definitely didn't help with the nerves that he had coming in. But now, I think he's settled down, and we're seeing how good of a player he is with his feet, because I think that's what we didn't see when he first came in. But I think he's just going to get better and better with the more game time that he gets. He's still a young player. I'm not expecting him to put in 8, 9 out of 10 performances week in, week out. Let's not forget he's only 19. He's going to have off games here and there. He's come to Derby to get some first team experience, and it's no different from a youth player coming through the academy. But I'm really excited to see how good David Ozoh can get, and where we're going to go on a journey with him this season.
Promotion. That's what
Maybe
it is.
so.
No, I think you're right. And on the point, I think Ozoh's first touch is poor. I think it's his weakest area of his game. But after that first touch, my God, if he gets 2 touches, good luck stopping him, because that's where he does his damage. And we have to mention the defence. That's back-to-back home clean sheets now for Derby. There was a lot of talk about, who starts at centre half. Sonny Bradley had obviously played whilst Cashin was out with a concussion with a concussion injury. I thought Paul Warne made exactly the right decision, Cal. Bring Cashin in. He's better on the floor, better with his feet. And he proved that. I thought he shut down Armstrong all game. I thought he shut down Twine whenever he came across. And he shut down Max Bird for that whole second half. Bird couldn't get a touch because the second the ball came near him, Erin Cashin was already there. It was like he told him, I'm going to beat you today. This is my game. And Cashin and the whole defence had a great game, didn't they, Callum? And it's, again, a good sign. We've brought in Nat Phillips, who we'll obviously touch on in a little bit. But we've brought in more defenders. But our defence from last season is doing the job, and doing the job well.
Yeah, it almost seems like not the signing of Nat Phillips has kind of meant that they've had to step up their game, but I think they've stepped up to the championship, both of them. And I think because of the relationship that they built in League One and during the season that we had last year, that those two seem to really just know each other's game, like back and front. And I think the nice thing is that they've got now confidence in, with one, the goalkeeper behind them, but also the fullbacks. I thought Nyambe and Elder were outstanding yesterday. So I think the entire back 5 are all solid and all performing really, really well. As you say, what I liked about Cashin and Nelson is that not also the way they sat and just were solid, but also when they were looking at not grabbing like small little pockets of the ball and like nipping at people's feet and helping out Ozoh and trying to win the ball back. And there was one time where Cashin won the ball from Bird. He went somersaulting. He's then won a second challenge, and you're kind of going like, that's the sort of thing you want from your centre half. And I think the nice thing is that he's coming from the 2 games that he missed, and he's not lost that form. He's carried on, and people were worried, me included. The way he performed during pre-season was a little bit worrying. And what I've liked is that he's massively stepped up his game, and hopefully it continues.
Those with no ball knowledge were the ones that were worried. Those at the bottom of our prediction league.
I'm not bottom. I'm just saying, I'm not bottom.
Oh, man. I mean, Jamie, we've talked about how good the defence is, but we've got to talk about Mendez-Laing and Jackson as well. And one of the talking points for me is who plays where. Now, we seem to have operated with Mendez-Laing on the left a lot, with Jackson on the right. I actually thought yesterday our best spell was when Mendez-Laing was on the right and Jackson ended up on the left. Obviously, Mendez-Laing at the outside of the post, Jackson ended up scoring the goal. I personally think that if we don't play Mendez-Laing on the right, it's an absolute waste, because he is clearly the best attacker we have at the club, and he's showed it all season and for the last season as well. But Caden Jackson scored 3 in 3, albeit one came from when he was on the left. I mean, who would you play where?
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think I'd play Mendez-Laing on the right and Jackson on the left. like you say, both had chances. Caden obviously took his. Mendes-Lang was desperately unlucky. It was almost similar to that Cambridge goal that he scored, where the ball was just trickling towards the net, and I think an inch the other way, and he'd be carting off in celebration. But yeah, I have to agree. I think they both work really hard. I think Mendes-Lang has come under a bit of stick for being skipper. I think some people probably think it should be somebody else within the team. But you can see he's leading by example. He's working hard. And yeah, Jackson on the other side has really surprised me. I'm not going to lie. I wasn't massively keen on the signing just because he hasn't played a lot of football. Yes, he's been around success, but how has he contributed to that? I don't really know. And I think there's been times actually where I've been quite critical of him in game because he's been sloppy in possession and he's lost balls and kind of gone backwards. But I tell you what, if he has half a chance at the moment, you think he's going to take it. And we talk about players and we've talked about players on the podcast. And I seem to do it every week where Derby just seems to be the place where players find their form. I was talking with Jacob about it on Saturday. And I just think with him, when he's confident and when he's playing the way he's playing at the moment, he could be another one of those players. He could be another Kazim Richards, a Jordan Ibe. I'm trying to think of some other players. But, you know, that kind of player that comes to Derby and just finds the best form of their career. And I know Callum's already said it, but long may it continue.
Well, when Jordan Ibe came in that situation, he made one appearance for 5 minutes and never played for us again. So let's hope it doesn't go down that path.
I'm talking about the loan spell. The loan spell, his original loan spell where he was electric, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Were you having that conversation with Jacob when you were waiting to buy that dark fruits, or was that?
Well, that's to pass the time somehow.
Yeah, I mean, we were lining up for a pint for about 25 minutes to be told that the card machine wasn't working. Yeah, I mean, at that point, I thought this day is definitely going to go the wrong way. But yeah,
we were all stood like, where have they gone?
The thing that put me in a bad mood is Adam's 4-0 loss prediction.
Yes.
I don't know what you're talking about there, Callum. I said 1-0 in the goal hanger video. I think that's the only prediction I made there.
Goal hanger is dishonest. That's breaking news. But yeah, Adam, just to round out the chat about Bristol City at home. I mean, I've asked you an atmosphere question already, and I feel like it's only right if I go to you again because we've mentioned already the atmosphere was electric before the game, during the game, and even after the game. And you could see after the game how much it meant as well, with the players all going around, obviously starting to bounce, which is a bit customary nowadays. But every single player went around the entire pitch. And to go with what Callum said, it feels tight-knit, doesn't it? And even though there's noises sometimes from the outside about, the tactics, and sometimes it even comes from us, there's questions about the tactics, questions about what we're doing and where the club's going. But when everyone pulls together, it's really special, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it wouldn't be a far shout to say that we've got one of the best home atmospheres probably outside the Premier League. I think even in League One at times it could be like that. We had one of the highest attendance stats even in League One for all the professional divisions outside of the Premier League in England. And I think when the team plays well, like I said earlier, it goes hand in hand with that. I think away from home we've always had good support. And I think at home we're seeing them big crowds, them 29, 30,000 crowds. And I think it's probably made better at home by the fact the away ends are now almost sold out as well. So there's that atmosphere being generated. And obviously last season, no disrespect to some of the clubs in League One, they were bringing small away followings, which meant that the atmosphere was sort of reliant on Derby fans. But it definitely helps when a away side comes and has a good vocal backing because it gives you something to bounce off of. And I think the team almost bounces off that as well. I think some of my favourite games in recent years and probably in the season to come will be when teams bring a big away following and sort of both teams bounce off that and we get a real spectacle of a game. And I think we had that at the start against Bristol City. We had that when the Bristol City fans were loud. I thought that's some of the best away support I've seen from Bristol City in a number of years coming to Pride Park. And they were loud. Their team played off that first 10 to 15 minutes. And then we grew into the game. And when the opportunities came to us, the atmosphere rose. And Paul Warne creating that tight-knit squad. We know he likes players that will work hard. That's been something we've said for 2 years, working hard, chasing after the ball. I always said it was a mythical Paul Warne press. I hadn't seen it until yesterday, and I must give credit. It was very good to watch, and I think it definitely helps build that atmosphere. Probably repeating what I said earlier, but I think winning those second balls and the chasing and defending, I think, is something that can definitely build up an atmosphere, not just the chances being created. So I think from all over the pitch, when that team comes together, I think it's good to see them at the end come out and sort of clap the fans for the atmosphere, and also the fans can help build it up after the game. And it's been a good game when the atmosphere continues well after the game and the stands stay back and clap the players off the pitch.
Yeah, certainly does. Right, we've got no game next week, so we can't do a preview. But we can do is talk about Derby's 3 signings since we last had an episode. So we've obviously signed Sharewa from Wolves on loan. Looks to be a winger or an attacking midfielder, which is exciting. Usually plays on the right or in the centre. We've got, Nat Phillips is some signing. You look at his experience, the teams he's played for, the places he's been. He was excellent for Cardiff last season at centre back. Where does he fit in? Maybe I'm about to ask that. And we've also got Marcus Harness, who I remember really well because I played against him when I was about 11. And he was really good back then as well. Who'd have thought? And also as well, he's, he came through Burton's Academy, ended up at Ipswich, back-to-back promotions with them, just like Jackson. So he must have something about him. I'm going to ask you, Callum, first. Where do all 3 fit in?
Nat Phillips, I actually don't know, because the way we're playing at the moment, I can't see our other centre half being dropped. So unless Paul Warne goes to a back 3, I don't know. that's my face when I was thinking about it, because I was sat there going, I want him in because his quality in terms of and his pedigree speaks for itself, and where he's come from and what he's achieved and the games he's played in. But then you can't drop Cashin and Nelson currently in the back 4. So I think Paul Warne will either have to do it, or you're kind of banking on a poor performance, which you don't want. So it's going to be a weird one because Nat Phillips isn't going to come from Liverpool to Derby County and want to sit on the bench. He's going to want game time because he's currently been sat on the bench at Liverpool. So that's what loan players want. They want game time and they want an opportunity to show what they can do. So it'll be interesting to see how that one plays. Harness, I see being the replacement for Barkhuizen for me. I think that when we take off Kane Jackson and bring or Nathaniel Mendez-Lang and bring on someone, I think Marcus Harness is going to be that person now, or he's going to be the one competing with him. I see Barkhuizen now going down in the pecking order for me, and I think Marcus Harness is a really it's not horrible in terms of what, but I think he's an upgrade. I think he's got quality. He's shown it in his time in the clubs he's been at. So I think he will be a winger for me of the front 3 if we stick to that formation. If we go to a 3-5-2, maybe a 10, but other than that, I think he'll be out on the wing for me. So book 2 very good signings on deadline day, and I'll take those all day long.
Yeah, sounds good. JB, Harness, again, as Callum said, he's a very good technical footballer, very good in tight spaces. I think, we'll have to see, but I think, he's probably going to take Barkhuizen's spot as the sub winger. Where can you see all 3 fitting in?
Well, I think to begin with, they've all got to get in the 16. I think they all do get in the 16, but they've got to put pressure on those players that are starting. And if we go and beat Cardiff, like I'm hoping we do, they could find themselves on the bench. But they've got to perform well in training, and they've got to fashion an opportunity to get into this team. And I think that's the most important thing now. We've got depth. Okay, yeah, we might be a little bit light in the 9, but in wide areas, at centre-back, in the midfield, yesterday you look at it and think, no Kane Wilson, no Osborne, no Phillips, no Harness. There's 4 players there that will be pushing to get into this 11. So it's really positive. My personal opinion is I think we will go to a 3. I think it might not come straight away, but I think we will go to a 3. And I quite like it. I'm not going to lie. I think actually we will probably see someone like Caden Jackson fall victim to that. Maybe a poor bit of form from him if he doesn't continue scoring. Maybe he'll be taken out and it might be 3 at the back, and you'll see potentially Elder and Nyambi, maybe Wilson when he comes back in those wide areas. But we've got to have, there's what's the saying? There's more than one way to skin a cat. I think we've got to have different formations, different ways of playing, and all three look like they're going to be very good additions.
Those poor cats. Adam, what do you think?
I wouldn't change to a 3 straight away. I think the only reason I'd bring them in is to rotate the team and make sure we don't accumulate too many more injuries, because I think the way that we play it was very hard working, and I couldn't see a lot of players managing to play 40 odd games of that style of football. So I think, to just sum it up quite shortly, the only way I'd bring them in right now, as of now, is if, players have played 2 or 3 games in a row and need a rest because of a midweek, and it gives them the opportunity to show what they can do and make a claim for why they should be in the team every week. So for me, just about squad rotation at the minute at this stage of the season. Don't want any long-term injuries or any major fatigue.
Yeah, absolutely. I think looking immediately, I think Chirewa is a backup, to be honest. I think that's why he's come. I think he's a backup till January in case we can get another target. But he could prove us wrong. I thought he looked pretty decent against Barrow, actually, in that first half. So we'll see what happens there. I can't see him getting massive amounts of game time with the players we have in those positions. But Harness, I think, is a really good impact sub. Last season, that is the role that he played at Ipswich. He was an impact sub, and he'd come on and he'd score goals. There were a couple of games. We've got an episode going out on Tuesday talking all about that. But there was a game where he came on, scored 2 goals, and that ended up being one of the ones that sent Ipswich up. So if he can do the same to keep us up, that's perfect. And Nat Phillips, I think, will be an interesting one. I don't want us to go to a back 3. I think we played really well yesterday. I think if we go to a back 3, it's if we're away from home to someone who's going to run rings round us, and we have to bring someone on like that. So I think Nat Phillips will come into the team eventually. I can see it probably being for Curtis Nelson if we stay with the 4. But at the same time, I don't think at the minute he can come straight in, because Curtis Nelson had a really good game yesterday. And I'm sure he'll continue that as well, which is good. So, Jamie, what are you holding up? I can't see it.
It's the man, the myth, the legend. That's what it is.
It's Paul Warne. You gonna explain yourself, or are you just gonna?
No, I was getting ready to say goodbye, and I just got excited about seeing Paul Warne's face. So
Nice.
it's coming.
Are you all right?
Not really. It's very hot in here, if I'm honest. It's one of you know what it's like. You open the window and then a motorbike goes past, or you don't open the window and you just die of heat. So yeah.
Yep, that's what I'm doing at the minute as well. So
I've got my window open. I'm loving it.
You're not interested in our quality of production, though, Adam. You just love throwing your phone.
That's why I sat in the dark.
I'll play a risk. I'll play a risk, and no motorbikes have gone past yet.
Great stuff. So, right, thank you so much for listening. If you did enjoy, please do leave a like, please do subscribe, etc., etc., etc. We're doing our charity running still. We're really flagging at the minute. My legs are dying. So please, can you donate if you can? We're about a quarter of the way to our goal so far. If you don't know about it, we're running about 3,900 kilometers across the season, something like that. And that's to raise money for Derby Food for Thought Alliance, who provide food for a lot of kids that don't have food in the Derbyshire area. So we're very grateful for that. And yeah, we've also got an episode going out next Sunday. So we won't be live on here, but we will be airing an episode where we're live at Pride Park. So it's going to be a very, very exciting episode. I know we posted about it on social media as well. Loads of fun. We really hope you enjoy it. And yeah, it was a really, really cool thing to do. It made us feel quite professional. Although the professionalness is quickly dropped when Jamie comes on screen. So yeah, as I said, thank you so much for listening. And it is goodbye from me.
Apologies for the audio viewers to my language earlier. Goodbye from me.
It's goodbye from me and Paul Warne.
Just let Paul say goodbye there for a moment. And it's goodbye from me.
Perfect. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for listening, and we will see you soon.